Hey everybody, it's Blaise here, and I've just put together a whole new set of foliage brushes that are gonna really, they're really gonna help you guys out. You're gonna love them. It really enables you to paint, to quickly paint foliage, trees, grasses, plants, that sort of thing. It's a set of 58 custom brushes that I've put together, and some of them you just paint right on. Other ones you kind of build, and so I thought I'd take this opportunity to kind of take you through some of the processes on how to use them. Okay, so let's just jump right into it because there's a lot here. So I'm going to come up here, and up here you can see right in this area I've got a lot of brushes, but right on these top brushes all the way down to right here I've got all of these brushes. They're all foliage brushes. These first ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these first 7, these are brushes where you can just paint a tree or a plant right onto your canvas. Let me just grab I'll just grab the first one to start off with. And if I paint, you'll see, boom, I've got these kind of cool little plants that just paint right on. Let me go to this next one. This paints a tree. Watch this. See that? Pretty neat. They're very simple. These are great for backgrounds if you want to really push them back in value. Here I've already got them kind of pressure sensitive. I'll go back into the mist. If I grab this one here, let's make that a little bigger so you guys can see it a little better. There, see that? And then you can just paint a top right onto them. They're really neat. You should use them to go paint from the top down, because the branches I've created to go that direction. All right, whoops, I painted over our background. Let me redo that. And we'll refill. Go back to our paintbrush, create a new layer on top. There we go. And I've even created trees that, like dead trees. And you can just kind of paint them in kind of quickly. And then I've got a couple more here, more pine trees. Here's one that might be a little fuller. There you go. So they're very cool. They're very quick and easy. And like I said, they're great for background. And they're a lot of fun to play with. You can create little forests with them. See how quickly they go on. Now let's jump into the rest of these brushes here. From this one right here, it's 182 pixels and onward. These are all their leaves, their branches, and these first two right here, I'm going to show you. They just create a textured line. But what that is that it's a trunk. It creates a nice trunk to start with, to build your tree onto. So I'm just going to grab the other one so you can see it. I'm going to knock the size down just a hair. Actually, no, I'll leave it back up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new layer over on the right side. See layer 7. And I'm just going to draw a line down, and it's pressure sensitive, so the harder I press, the thicker of a line I'll create. And you can see it's got a nice texture to that silhouette. And maybe another one there. There we go. Very simple. And what we're doing is we're going to create this tree silhouette, and then we're going to build on top of it. And I'll take you through some of the processes and some of the blend modes for the brushes that I use. So now that we've gotten our trunk, let's grab some branches. So I'm going to grab some branches right here. Let's knock the size up just a hair. And I'm just going to start at the top and brush down. And look what happens. See how quick and easy that was? So we're slowly building up our tree. We've got the trunk, we've got some basic bare branches, and now I'm going to go ahead and grab some other leaves. Let's go ahead and grab, just for the heck of it, let's grab some of these leaves right here. And I'm just going to start here, work down there, and you can just slowly, I can just kind of build. Oh, don't want to do that one. You can see that branch sticking out. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it because I'm going to show you what you can do with that. There, I got some cool branches sticking out there. We've got just the right balance of live branches, dead branches. They're sticking out, but obviously it's not a full tree yet. So let's go ahead. I'm going to shrink it down because I want to save some room for the top. So let's keep that there. We've got a nice silhouette going. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got some other leaves in here. You can see they look like circles, these circles of the clumps of leaves. Well, watch what happens when I use them. I want to fill in some gaps now. So let's come up at the top and just stamp it in there. And boom, just stamp it in there. Look what happens. We're filling in some of these gaps. Remember I showed you where that leaf that branch there. I've just filled that in. And now we're kind of taking care of that silhouette. And fill that out at the top. I dig that. I like that right there. And so what's nice about that is you can use these these brushes, these filler brushes, to kind of take care of that repetition that you get sometimes with the branches when you paint them on. You can make it feel much more organic, and so that's what we've done here. So now what we've got a really great silhouette, and that's fine. If you want to push that into the background and just use that, you can use that there. But we don't have to stop there. This is what's really cool. The first thing we want to do, if I want to start building this up and really make a tree that has leaves and color and that sort of thing, first thing I want to do is I'm going to repeat that layer. I just drag it down. You can see the little icon down here. And I'm going to turn the one off underneath because I like to save one just to go back and kind of play with later. And then you see this where it says lock and this little checkerboard. I'm going to lock that, and what that enables me to do is I can paint all over this, but whatever I do on top, it's only going to paint where I've already painted, okay? And let me blow this up real quick too. Remember those filler brushes that we used? Let me shrink this up so it doesn't get so distracting. You see in here some of the leaves that stick out? You know, it fills in, it already starts to fill in a little bit where in some of these clumps. It's kind of neat. But anyway, we've got this locked. And now we can't really paint anywhere outside of this silhouette. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create some texture on this trunk. Well, now that we've got it locked, that's kind of cool. And I'm going to blow this up so you can see it a little better. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. And remember, the trunk brushes were up here, but you'll see 3 brushes right here. And when I click on it, I'm going to grab it, and you see it's got this funky texture to it. I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. There we go. And now that I've got it locked, I won't paint outside of it, and I'm going to come over and I want to grab a nice warm kind of brown color. Now watch what happens as I paint along the edge of this tree. Look at that, I'm painting texture right into that tree. See that? And if I feel like I've gone too far over, I can just grab that tree color and I can paint texture going right back the other direction with the tree color. Look at that. And already you're starting, I'm imagining the light kind of being off to the right side and behind us. So I'm creating a little texture there. Maybe there's a little reflected light on the left side. So I'm going to grab a cooler kind of gray, and maybe not quite as dark, or I'm sorry, not as light. And I'm just going to paint along the edge. Let me redo that. I'm going to shrink this brush up a little bit. There we go. Just going to paint along the edge. And look at that, we've got a little bit of reflected light there. Bring it up in here, maybe some texture in there. See that? Now I want to come back. I'm going to grab some of that color that we used on the light side. I'm going to brighten it up and just hit. I'm going to grab one of the other textures, and I'm just going to hit it lightly right along the edge. Oh, you got to lock it up. There we go. Right along the edge, and just so it's catching a little bit of light. Maybe grab one of the other textures. There we go. Shrink that up a little bit more. And just paint along the edge again, and just play with those textures. But already you see we've got this trunk, we've got some texture on the trunk. See that? Now let's do the same thing with the leaves. So we've got a great silhouette, but let's go back to some of these stamp brushes. Remember I showed you these filler brushes? Let's grab a different one. I'm going to grab this one here. It's a little bit big. I want to shrink it down just a hair, not too much. Let's make it 800 pixels. That's a good size. Now I'm going to grab a green. I want the leaves to be green-ish because we're gonna vary up some of the color. I'm going to pull it in here, and I'm going to turn on the opacity button. I'm going to knock the opacity down a little bit because I don't want it to be too overpowering. And what I'm going to do, once again, we're imagining that color off to the right. So I'm just going to lighten up. Just going to stamp in some of these areas. I'm just stamping it. That's all I'm doing. See that? I'm imagining some of these leaves being in the foreground, coming towards us. Maybe some in here. And leaving, generally, the leaves on the left side kind of in the dark. All right? So already we're starting to get some cool, interesting textures. And what's neat is, look how much, I can stamp along the right side, but it doesn't, because that level is locked, it doesn't stamp outside there. And I'm going to lighten that up a little bit in there. Let's lighten that up in there. Whoa, that's kind of cool. You see that? Now let's grab some of our leaves. I've got a whole bunch of different leaf shapes that you can play with up here. I'm just going to grab this first one and just lightly, I'm going to come in, use that same, let's use that same color. I'm going to knock the opacity up and just come in. I'm lightly brushing some of these leaves on. Let's enlarge that a little bit. Once again, thinking about the light areas, thinking about the clump leaf shapes. See that? Oh, let's get rid of that. There, some of those leaves are a little too big for back there. I'm going to knock that size down just a bit. There we go. Look at that. Hit some of these leaf shapes in here. There. Now watch this. Those are all consistent. All those leaves are kind of, they're all basically the same color. If I grab the next one over, what that does is that paints leaves in the same shape, but that hue varies a little bit. When you look at a tree, look at plants, those sorts of things, the color isn't always consistent. You get a lot of variances of greens and that sort of thing, and that's one of the things I try to design into this brush here, so that you can get different different hues in the green. You know, it'll go a little warmer, a little cooler, just like it would in nature. And then one last leaf right here on the right side there. When I paint this in, I created leaves that we're seeing some edges. See how they're kind of turned? So we can create, and it'll go with the edge, the direction that I paint it. It'll follow the direction of the brush. So we can get like the tops of clumps of leaves. Maybe we'll get a little over here. We'll get some up in here. We can just really start to fill that in. Maybe we want, let's hit some of these up here. I'm just really quickly laying some of these in. Hit a couple there, underneath. Already that's looking kind of cool, right? Well, we want to get some reflected light. Maybe some of these leaves over on the left side are kind of cool. They're reflecting a little bit of sky. We'll make them on the blue side, maybe a little gray, not quite as bright. And let's come in and just brush in some of those leaves in there. Look at that. And see how the hue varies up a little bit? That's what happens in nature. You know, some of them don't reflect quite as much light. You know, the value jumps around a little bit. It's a little bit lighter, some are a little darker. But see, you can continue some of these clump shapes right into the shadow areas. See that? Maybe a little bit under here, not catching quite as much light, but they're in the dark area. There, look at that. Maybe some in there. You can just push that a little harder, and you can get, you know, the harder you press, the more leaves you'll get. And look at this tree that's coming to life already. And it's just a matter of minutes we've really started pulling this together. Let's get a few more in here. Now, this has all been used, we've been doing this, if you look at the mode for the brush mode, we've been doing this under normal. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this again. I'm going to double up that layer, turn this off. I like to, once I hit where I want to try something new, I'll create a new layer. That way I can always go back. But I'm going to turn this one on. It's already locked. And I'm going to come up here, and Photoshop automatically comes with their standard brushes, which I have down here. Here's an airbrush. I'm going to grab the airbrush. I'm going to knock the size up to about here. You can see I've got it at 143 pixels. I'm going to knock the opacity down, okay? Now I'm going to go and I'm going to set it on multiply, and I'm going to grab kind of a cool green and kind of mid to a little bit lighter than mid-tone, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to push back. See what happens? When you set it on multiply, I'm going to blow that up. When you set it to multiply, it multiplies with the color underneath, whatever color that you're painting. So we can push things back. We still keep that detail, you can see it, but now the values are coming together and it's starting to, we're pushing back into that space, into the tree. Like right here, it feels kind of flat. Well, I want to push back. Let's knock the size of the brush down a little bit. I'm going to push this all back, just push it back in there. Oh, look at that. We'll push it back in there. Maybe some of these clumps, we'll push that back in. Getting some shadow over in there. Get some, push this back in here. And because, once again, we've got this layer locked, nothing is painting outside. It's like all these little negative spaces that you see in here, like that, they don't get painted over. We can paint as much as we want, and as long as this layer is locked, they don't get painted over. So we can make these leaves back here really dark if we want to. See that? We can create some darkness there. There we go. So let's bring that back. So those are some cool shapes. Push that back a little bit. Now let's push that back a little bit. These feel a little too light. That feels a little too light. Right there, we can push that back. See? So now we're getting some cool, kind of light and dark. Well, let's create, I'm going to double that up again, turn that off. Let's go and set our brush setting to overlay now. And I'm going to grab a nice light color. And what overlay does is it kind of brightens up what's underneath it. So I'm going to grab a light color, kind of warm. I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab one of our leaf brushes again. I'm going to grab the one where we can see the edges. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to paint right over the top. I'm going to blow that up. And look what happens. Look at, we're painting some light leaves in there. They get nice and bright, and it's kind of random and scattered, and we're getting some nice color variances. Even into the shadow areas, I'm going to go ahead and paint. I'm going to really get a lot in here. I want to lighten up this area, get some nice bright kind of highlights happening off the top. I'm going to push this a little bit more. And look at that nice kind of variances of value. A varied value effect that we got going on. I'm going to come down here, hit a few more in there. There. Now look at that. We got a really neat tree happening. I want to come back up. I'm going to grab some of these warmer, darker greens, and I want to spread out. I'm not, it's feeling a little too green over on the right side. So let's just go ahead and put this back to normal, right up here, and let's just brush in. I'll knock the opacity up. Let's just brush in now a few leaves over the dark areas that we just created. See that? And it adds a nice, it balances it out. See, the key here is to really get experimental. Play with these different modes. I usually use normal, multiply, and overlay. And sometimes, and then to really brighten things up, I'll use color dodge. And those are the only ones I really use. Let's go ahead and brighten that up a little bit. There we go, just brightened it. There we go, and can just hit just a couple of areas in there. There we go. And look at the shapes we're getting. When we use that brush that has the leaves that are kind of turned to their edge, it really helps define the clump shapes of the leaves, and it rounds them out. You can use the, oops, turn that back on. We can use, this one here where the leaves are all flat, and that you can use for the front, like we're doing there. Look at that. Boom. Getting some great feel to that. See that? Very simple. Once again, I'm going to go back to multiply. Right there. Now watch what happens when we use some of these leaves on multiply. Now we're creating leaves that are making kind of leaf-shaped shadows in here. See that? And it makes it a little more, there we go. Makes it around it, once again, makes it a little richer. Rounds it out. We're going to get some really nice little spots of dark. It's all about texture. We're building up texture in this background. We'll get some nice shadow shapes in there. Let's go to our leaf that's turned to the edge. We'll get some nice speckled texture in there. See what we're doing? We're building up some really great shapes in here. Now, trees like this, they're always going to, we've already established that there's some dead branches in here. You see them along the edges? Well, I've got a branch where we can go in. Where is it here? There it is. This one right here, 767. Let's grab that branch. And I'm going to knock this all the way up, right there, to 100%. Let's get a nice gray, dead branch color. Let's go into the brown area. Make it nice and light. And I'm going to pick some areas and I just want I want to see these textures here, these branches. I want to kind of repeat that, and you see what I've got with the shape of the brush. If I just kind of stamp in here, I'll turn that off. If we just kind of stamp in here, I'm going to set this to normal. Sorry, I had it set to multiply, that's why I couldn't see it. If I just kind of stamp in here, oh, look at that, we got a branch. We got another branch. I'm going to turn that on, turn that on. Let's just experiment a little bit. One feels a little bit big. I'm going to turn that. There we go. We'll go in there. Oh, there's a nice little texture. There's some texture there. It's all about being very subtle. Very, very subtle. There we go. There's a nice little texture. Get some texture in there, maybe in there. Just hit a couple little areas. It doesn't need a lot. There. Now we can go back over the top. Let's grab our green again. Grab it right in here. Let's go back to our leaves right there. And we're already set on normal. There we go. And let's just kind of brush over the tops of those. And we'll get some nice leaf shapes over the dark. So that's, you pick little areas of where the light will play over the dark. Little areas of focus where your eye can go. See that? There we go. Let's cool off. Maybe we've got some cooler color leaves in there. There we go. We're going out of the direct sunlight. Let's go over here, over some of those branches. And look at that tree. It's really coming to life. Now, we've got a ton of detail going on in here. Maybe you don't want all that detail. You want to soften it a little bit. Well, this is something I discovered that's really cool. Here are several of my grass brushes, and I'm going to demonstrate those for painting actual grass, but they're really great for softening areas. I'm going to grab this one right here, 236. Let's grab that brush. I'm sorry. Let's go to our smear tool and then grab that brush, which I've already done. And I set it at about 30%, somewhere in there. Right now it's at 34. And let's say we want to soften some of these areas and we want to give it kind of a painterly feel. Well, I'm going to blow this up. Watch what happens when we do this. Look what I'm doing. You see how I'm softening? And watch, I can turn this off and turn off the lock. And so let's say, you want to soften some of these edges back here. Well, I'll just come in and it's a little cross-hatchy, but I kind of like that. It feels painterly to me. And so I like to use that. And I'm going to come in and look at how I'm softening edges. Softening some of these negative spaces in here. Maybe they feel a little harsh. Look at that. Come in there and soften that. Just kind of work over the whole thing. Maybe we want to come in here and soften some of these areas where the leaves recede underneath. But we leave the detail, right here in the foreground. Maybe we want to soften some of this back here, get it nice and pushed back and not so detaily. Because remember, what's really cool about this is after you soften something, you can go back in and just lightly hit it with a little bit of detail. Now I use this smear method, the smudge tool, I should call it. I use that for kind of taking some of the detail out of the grasses too. And so when we get to that, I'll show you. But look how nice that is. It gives us this nice soft, in areas where we want to lose edges, gives us this nice soft feel. I'll come over here and let's lose some edges over here. Just soften that up just a hair. And it really gets the tree to kind of feel like it's not cut out. And it just sits in the environment kind of nicely. And once again, like I said, you can be really selective on where you use it. And it just gives it a nice, painterly, non-digital feel. I don't like paintings that look, digital paintings that look digital. We can get in here and we can just make it look painterly and soften and play with it. And you want to soften maybe some of the tree trunk edges. Look at that. We just get right in there and do it. See how cool that is? And it gives it kind of this misty, just nice feel. So we've done that. Now let's go back to our paintbrush and grab those leaves again, those edge where we're looking at edges, and let's grab a nice, really warm color and just lightly go in and over some of those areas that we softened. We can add a little bit more detail right back in over the top. And remember, I've got it unlocked, so now some of these leaves can go outside the silhouette of what we've created. And look how, such a great feel that you get here. Look at that. These brushes, they really enable you to get really creative and not spend tons of time painting leaves and all that sort of thing. And look at that. Oh, hit a little bit there. I'm going to go a little cooler again. Go over to the left side where there's reflected light. Let's go in here and maybe blend it in with some of those warm colors. See that? Got some great shape. We got little branches sticking out. You know, once again, let's go. Let's grab that branch again, right here. There it is. Knock the size down. Just maybe hit some of those. I'm gonna bring that back up again. Maybe hit a couple. There we go, like that. But you say, oh man, it looks too light. Well, what's neat is we can come up and we'll set our brush mode to multiply. And once again, go back to that airbrush. Let's knock the size down. Knock the opacity down so we can be subtle with it. And let's push those branches back. Now we're getting some nice dark holes there in the trees like you get in reality. Let's lock that layer so we can push some of these back. There we go. Look at that, nice. Let's get some darkness back in there. Let's turn the tip, the pressure sensitivity to the tip on, and you can get really kind of detailed back in there. See that? Push some of these leaves back again. And so it's really kind of endless. You can keep playing with it, and really build these trees up to where you got a really great, very organic kind of thing happening. Look how cool that tree is. You know, some of these areas might feel a little soft. Well, if they do, you just go back in and you add, you do your leaves again. So let's come back, because some of those feel a little soft to me. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to leave it on multiply. Let's come in, just work over the top, knock that opacity up. Like I'm getting some nice harsh edges there. Some nice shadow areas. Now let's set that back to normal. Keep that brush. I'm going to grab, once again, go back to that nice warm color. Let's work over the top. There we go. Nice. Right over some of these soft, there we go. Some of these soft areas. Let's blow this up a little bit more. I'll run some leaves there. Look at that. There. So we got a really neat tree. Relatively quick. We created it relatively quick for what it is. Okay, so let's say we want to add some grasses now. Well, let's make a layer behind the tree. All right, now let's just grab a nice green. And once again, here, these are all the different leaves. So, you know, you can experiment with those, play with them. I'm going to grab some grass right here. I'm going to set all of this to normal, and turn all the switches off up there, set all to normal. And I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to make this color, because I want it to go in the background. I'm going to cool it off a little bit, tone it down. Whoops, turn that off. Let me grab a different one here. There we go. Whoops. There. So we've got that all turned off in the background. We've got some nice, look at that, some nice color happening. I'm going to push that. Remember, this is going to be a background layer. I'm going to come back. Let's grab this again. Let's go a little warmer. It can stand and go a little warmer. There we go. And all I'm doing is I'm just scrubbing. I'm just painting. We can make it go tall if we want. Yeah, we can bring the strokes up a little higher. You know, the idea is to not be too repetitive. But what's really nice is that it really paints in a lot of leaf stalks and that sort of thing real quickly for you. Let's come back to our other leaves again and paint those in. Look at that. Now watch, if we, once again, just like we did on the other one, if we lock that layer, we can come in. I'm going to grab kind of this mid-tone again. I'm going to grab the airbrush setting. I'm going to set it to multiply. And, whoops, that's a little too much. I want to turn that on, turn the opacity button, turn the opacity down, turn this guy off. There we go, that's better. Be much more subtle. Now look, we can push these guys. Like I'm not painting outside the leaves. We're creating kind of a shadow over the top. All right? See how that works? Now let's create a layer on top, a new layer on top. Let's go nice and warm with our leaf color, or our grass color. We're going to grab those same grasses increase the size a little bit because they're coming into the foreground. And let's just paint right over the top. I'm going to knock that opacity up. Let's just paint right over the top. There we go. I'm just very lightly, I've got the opacity button turned on, but I've got it turned up to 100%. And see what's nice about it is I can get kind of subtle with it. I'm going to work into the foreground. I'm going to press really hard. I've got it set on multiply. That's what's happening. Let's set it to normal. These will lighten up just a little bit. There we go. So you can play with those, play with the brush modes and the blend modes. There we go. Look at that. Bring that up a little higher. Now the key to this kind of stuff is that you want to get variances in your in the grasses. So what we're doing right now is I'm just kind of laying down a bed of grass that we can work with. But already you can see it's kind of cool. Let's just finish this out. I'm going to finish laying this in. Let's bring some up high. See that? There we go. Let's play with some other grass shapes. So we've got those. Here's another one that's more like small grass. We'll come in here, see that? And it kind of points in different directions. Get in there. Whoops. There we go. There. Good. Let's go ahead and lock that layer again. Actually, no, let's not lock that yet because I want to try some of these other brushes right here. I want to get this guy again. Let's knock the size down just a hair. I'm going to go a little darker. It's because it's a different plant. Let's just go a little darker with it. Let's just play with that. Once again, we're looking for places where you can vary up the plant life. You don't want it to feel real repetitive. There we go. Brush some up in there. Now I'll put some over here maybe. See? That feels pretty good. And let's go back and grab our original grass and lay that over the top again. Just building it up, building it up, building it up. See there? We got a nice feel happening there. Let's go ahead and lock that layer. And you know, we're thinking about this tree and it's been casting a shadow back here. Maybe there's other trees off screen that are casting shadows. So let's go ahead and get a nice cool green, kind of going into the blue area. Let's grab that airbrush again, that airbrush setting, right? And let's set that to multiply right there. And we can paint in, we can darken it, you know, we can paint in shadows. The shadow coming across. Boom, right there. There, that feels pretty good. And just darken that right up. Now maybe we want to grab some grass. Maybe some of those grass stalks are in shadow. So we'll come up and let's just paint some of those grass stalks. Let me blow that up a little bit so you can see it. We'll just paint some of those grass stalks right on in shadow. You see that? We're getting a nice texture, like so. Now let's turn the multiply off, go back to normal. Let's leave those brush strokes, I mean the grass stalks. And because we're in shadow, I'm going to make it nice and cool. But I'm just lightly hitting a few areas right over the top to create some contrast. Make that a little bigger. There we go. And you see how quickly we can start building up some interest here. See that? Now once again, let's say we say okay, we're feeling like we got a little bit too much detail. Let's grab this brush again. Well, actually we want to go back to our smudge tool. We're already still on that brush. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And we can come in and we can just soften. Look what I'm doing. We can just soften some of these grass areas. So it's not so detail-y everywhere. I'm just coming in and I'm softening up the bottom. I'm going to turn off the lock area because I want to cover up some of these negative spaces. I want to let those negative spaces just kind of blur and smear away. See what I'm doing? I'm just smearing away some of that detail. And it just gives it, it's a little easier to look at. Just getting rid of detail here and there. And once again, remember, you can always, always, always go back and add detail back in. So I'm just softening it, getting it to feel a little better. Let's go to that layer underneath. I'm going to soften some of those areas there. There we go. Come back up on top and just softening. Turn that, there we go. We're going to turn off, go back to the bottom, turn off the lock on the layer, and there we go. Now we're softening some of those background leaves, pushing them back into the background. Look at that, they're just softening right up there. It's getting a great feel to it. Now let's go back in. Let's go back to our brushes. Knock that opacity down. I want to add some, let's make it normal, there we go. I want to add some, oops, on the wrong layer, there we go. I want to add some detail back in. You can just brush over the top of it. See that? Go back to multiply if you want. Brush over the top of it. Look at that. See, we're getting, let's knock that up a little bit. See that? Just put detail right back over the top. You can always, always, always add detail back in, or you can take it away. But what these brushes enable you to do is kind of create very, you know, for how repetitive they are, you can really create some great varied looks to them. So now we got this tree that's really kind of sitting in this field. It feels actually pretty cool. We've got some more brushes that we can play with. Look at these. I'm going to create a layer underneath those the grass that we put on top. I'm going to grab some of these brushes here. Look at these in here. Now I'm going to turn that off. Let's grab some nice color here, nice and dark, somewhat dark. And I'm going to, whoops, got that set to multiply. Let's set that to normal. There we go. Turn that off, turn that up. There we go. Now that's what I was looking for. Look at that. I'm going to turn that off. Let me get rid of that. Let's start over. I'm going to shrink that down. Here. See that? We're getting some different plants. We're varying up the plant life. That's the key. There we go. Get maybe in front of that tree. See that? It's kind of cool. And once again, lock those layers. Let's hit a nice gray, cool. Let's come to our airbrush. Knock the size down a hair. Turn on the pressure sensitivity. Set it to multiply right here. And let's just hit the bottoms of them. Maybe they go into shadow down there. See that? Oh, that's cool. Maybe hit those. Or maybe those are in the shadow of the tree. Well, knock those back. Maybe that's in the shadow of the tree. Knock that back. But we can see now, oh, shoot. Okay, we want to go. Let's go back to our plant brush right here. And let's just paint it. Oh, we got to turn that off. There we go. Let's just paint it in. Oh, there we go. Let's set it to, that's on multiply. There we go. It's perfect. There, look at that. This all feels really good. I'm going to turn that off. Make this nice and dark. Let's knock the size down. There we go. Come in there. Oh, there we go. Fill that in. See, nice, get nice varied feel to it all. That feels pretty cool. Look at the field that we're creating. This really great organic kind of feel to everything. I don't like these negative areas down here. I'm going to create a layer on top. I'm going to grab that color there. Let's just use our same brushes here. And let's just fill that in. There. Fill it in. There we go. Fill it in. Fill it in. There, now we got some stuff going on top. Look at that. That feels pretty good, huh? We've got other ones. If we grab this one, it's kind of the same plant, but now we can get more selective with just painting individual stalks. Let me bring that up a little bit so you can see that. See that? Or let's grab this one. This one here gives us, yet again, a different plant species. We'll just put that right over the top. So look at this, all the varied plant life we have going on. Let's say some of them are flowering. Let's create a layer on top of the, oh, actually we'll just leave it on there. And let's grab, maybe they're violet. And look at this, I've got this little flower right here, that's a little flower brush. Let's darken it because those are in shadow. Maybe some of these are flowering. It's already set on multiply. Let's set it to normal. That way we'll get some plant. Yeah, you can see them right over the top, right over here on the edges. Look at that. See, they've got little, just very quickly we're laying in with this little flower brush, little purple flowers. Let's come back here to our layer that's underneath, this grass layer. Remember this one here, turning it on and off? Let's create some flowers there. I'm going to create a layer on top, lighten up that color. Let's actually make it a little warmer, a little brighter. And look at this. We got flowers growing in the grasses and on these plants here. Some of them will hit them up in here. There we go. And look how quick and easy it is to create these little landscapes. And what's nice about that, being able to add this violet is this ability to kind of play with varying colors. You can open up the palette and the eye really responds to it. Let's say we want some yellow flowers in there. Maybe there's a few small daisies or something like that. Well, let's come in and we'll just lightly lay those in right across here. Maybe there's a little patch of them right there. Just lay them right in. There we go. That feels pretty good. Maybe a couple more in here. Look how cool that is. There. Look at that. Now let's hit some light areas. So I'm going to we're going to come back to this layer. We're going to lock it again. I'm going to keep this nice bright color right about there. Let's grab our grass, this one right here. We're going to knock the opacity button down to about 59%. And we're going to go to overlay. Remember that overlay button that we used back on the leaves? And now watch. Oh, look, we're going to hit some nice bright areas. That's what the overlay does. It really brightens up some of those areas so that we got some grass that's maybe catching some sunlight right along the edge there. See that? That feels pretty good. Now, I'm going to create a layer on top. I want to kind of get this all to feel like it's going into shadow evenly. So I'll create a layer on top, and I'm going to set the layer over on the right. I'm going to set that to multiply. I'm going to grab a nice, cool, mid-tone color there. Set this to normal. And I'm going to grab my gradient tool. Hold down the bucket and come over to gradient right there. I've got it set. I'm going to set it down to about 41%. Now watch. I'm going to bring it up from the bottom, and I'm just darkening, getting that to go into darkness. There we go. It just feels a little better to me. There we go. Look what we've done. We've really created kind of this cool tree. Maybe some of the leaves. There we go. Let's do this. I'm going to come down here into our grass section. I'm going to turn that off, turn the lock off. I'm going to grab some of the leaves and let's make them brown, and maybe we got some dead brown leaves. Come back up to our brush. Let's grab our leaf again. This guy right here. That's the one that's kind of turned sideways, remember? Let's come in here and let's just lightly turn that opacity up. Maybe some of the leaves fell down in there. There we go. Once again, it just adds a little varying color. Maybe some of them are up in here. Let's add a couple to the tree. You know, maybe a couple of brown leaves up in there. It kind of rounds it out a little bit, color-wise, right? Yeah, that feels pretty good. That background feels a little too even. Let's add a little mist, a little atmosphere. Let's grab that. I'm going to go a little cool with it. And let's go a little lighter. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to grab my gradient tool, and it's behind everything. And let's just create a little atmosphere back there. That feels pretty neat. And let's go a little warmer. Let's go here, and a little brighter. And we'll just bring it in this way. There. Now let's create a layer underneath that. And one last time. Oh, you know what we can do? We can grab, let's make this dark. Come back up to our brushes. We can create shrubs. Forgot to show you guys. Just remember those filler brushes that we had? Well, let's take some of those. Just see what happens. Look at this. Let's create some shrubs in the background, and you know, back in that mist. There, let's round that out. There we go. Let's grab another one. Let's use this one. I like that one. Get some nice shapes back there. There. Look at that. We created some shrubs back there pretty quickly. Let's create a layer on top. There. See that? Look how quickly we did that. There. There. So, there's a little composition using my tree and plant brushes, and look how quickly we were able to do this. I'm just going to kind of take you around just going to take you around. Look at the variances. Look at all the different plants and values just by playing with these brush modes up top. If you use the let me shrink that down. There we go. If you use these brush modes, normal, multiply, overlay. Actually, let's go ahead and do color dodge real quick because I want to show you what I do with that. So we've got this cool thing going on here. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's save it as landscape. All right, I'll save it in my documents. Let's save it there. Now, one of the things I like to do is I'm going to let's create a folder. Boom, there we go. I'm going to grab everything right here. I'm going to put it all into that folder. There, I've got everything contained in that folder. I'm going to double it. I'm going to turn that one off, and then that group right there, I'm going to go up to edit, or I'm sorry, we're going to go to layer. Come on. There we go, layer. I'm going to merge that group. So now it's all, see that? I've got it all combined. Now you can play with stuff. Now, so we've got our color dodge. Let's go to our airbrush, make it really big. Now color dodge I love to play with because it can really brighten up areas. So I'm going to knock this opacity way down, 6%. I'm going to grab a nice, warm, bright yellow. Let's knock the size down just a touch. And I'm going to brighten up some of these areas. Look at that. See how I'm brightening up some of these leaves? They're catching maybe a little bit more light. And it leaves the dark areas alone, but brightens up. There we go. Brighten that up a little bit there. Maybe a little bit there. And let's hit some of these leaves on the grasses down below. Getting nice and bright down there. See what that does? Maybe some of the mist. Let's just try it. I'm going to double that up, turn that off. Let's come back here. Maybe some of the mist itself in the background. Let's knock that size up. There we go. Maybe that's a little brighter. Brighten that up back there. See what you can do? You can really play with it. And fog isn't always even. Maybe here it's bright, and then up here, let's play with maybe there's a little brightness in there like you see in clouds, There we go, get a nice brightness there. Now see what we've done? That's kind of cool. The other thing you can do again, remember we grab our smear tool, we've got that little grass setting. What if we played with softening some of that background? What if we soften some of these areas back here? Oh, look at that. Yeah, see, I'm pushing that right back. Look at this. Pushing this right back into the mist. Oh, yeah. Lose some of those details. We don't need all those details. There. Push it right back into the mist, right here. Push it right back into the mist. And the higher I go, the more it blends with the sky. There. Well, right where we get the most contrast, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that detail. But some of these other areas, I'm just going to soften. Look at that. Soften that. Soften some of these other edges. Maybe some of these grasses. Can definitely soften some of this area here. I'm just lightly brushing over some of these real contrasty areas with my blend tool, but using, or the smudge tool, I guess, but using the grass as the brush to blend with. It creates a really great effect. Look how foggy and misty and atmospheric that feels. I'm going to knock the size down. Let's soften some of that tree edge. There. We'll soften some of this. Yeah, right in here. See these edges on some of these grasses. Look at the landscape we created. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, that's a demo on using some of these brushes. Get in there, play with the blend modes, play with the smudge tool. Just have fun with them. Remember, you've got the tree trunk brush where you can just create the trunk, and then all the branches that you can build the branches onto and create really cool silhouettes where you can then, remember, lock that layer. That's a real key. Lock the layer and then add leaves and add color and add all kinds of fun to it. You can turn the lock off, and you can go back and smudge and smear edges and just come up with something that looks really painterly. Have fun with it. These brushes will really open up new possibilities for you. So go out and have fun. I really appreciate you using them and buying them, and spread the word, because I've got a lot more coming down the road. I've got some water brushes that are going to be coming. But anyway, enjoy. I'm glad to share these with you, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.